me talk a little bit about ending sessions on time. So a lot of things that from the psychoanalytic world that psychotherapists don't really get trained on. Most important thing about the therapeutic relationship is the frame. Frame is the holding space. So in terms of ending sessions on time and safety for the client, the interesting thing is that if we go over time once in a while, we're breaking safety. We are actually making the client feel unsafe now because we're becoming the unpredictable, inconsistent parent. So that's why I want to really not minimize. They're like, oh, it's only 5 minutes. It's a big deal. Daycare centers do not have lunch sometimes at 11:45 and sometimes at 12:15. Routine from an attachment perspective is why I really keep clients in that bounded space, because they've often come from chaos. And now it's like they show up and it went over last time. They come into the next session not having that stability. So it's an unconscious thing where we're trying to do this. First of all, clients can leave a session crying, but clients can be crying. We may not have a bow tied onto it at the end of the session. And what we have to do is interrupt and say, Brenda, I'm really sorry to interrupt. I'm really aware of the time and I see that there's a lot of emotion coming up. And a couple of things on my mind are that I really want to spend our next session diving into this more deeply, but I want to spend the next few minutes just getting you grounded a little bit before you go. Now, that's a little bit before you go. We do not have to cure the crying in the last 5 minutes. So I think while we're sitting there looking at the clock and this story is going and going and going, at some point we have to do what I call the interruption sandwich. But the interruption sandwich is where we have a piece of bread that's positive, a piece of bread that's positive and empathic. In the middle, we have what we're trying to say to the client. The meat of it. The meat of it is, get out, our session's over. But we're not going to say it that way. So I just did the sandwich. So the sandwich is, Brenda, I'm really sorry. I hate to interrupt because I think you're saying a lot of things that obviously are really emotional and really important. And I'm just aware of the time. And what I want to make sure we do is maybe just have you grounded a little bit before we go and really put this at the top of our agenda. And I want to also check in, how are you going to take care of yourself today? We only have a few minutes left, and I want to see how you're going to take care of yourself for the rest of the day and take a minute to just breathe with me, to breathe through this before you leave. And I love the send-off is, what do you need to do to take care of yourself after session right now? You've got to go to work. Can you get a cup of tea in or just take a breather before you start work? We also have to get comfortable with the fact that the client will survive. So we're not interrupting because we've got something going on with us. Is there a people-pleasing thing around us? Is there it's rude for us to interrupt? So also look at what's going on with you as the therapist. So those are some of the tips to keep in mind around trying to end a session on time. I know this is very hard though, because we're the polite Canadians. And then I think if it keeps happening where we're trying to learn the skill, it's not going to be perfect. Next time it might only be 2 minutes you'll be over. So maybe the first time you go over 10 minutes, I've heard of horror stories of half an hour, but really keeping in mind that this is for the safety of the client and part of that consistency. And they get to know that you can trust that they can survive this crying and leaving a session. Because if we keep them on and keep supporting, and now it's 10, 15 minutes after, the client leaves not trusting that they can cope. So they needed 15 extra minutes from us because we don't have confidence in them. So it instills confidence in them. And again, this is all unconscious. If it's happened a lot and keeps happening, sometimes I've gone in and said, Brenda, I want to apologize because I haven't been a very good timekeeper. So sometimes if it's been going on and I'm learning a new skill around this, I can say, Bill, I've not been very good at keeping time, but I think it's also important for us to check in with you about what's it like for you when the session is coming to an end. Because what I'm seeing is that as we're coming closer to an end, there's more and more information that you want to share. And I'm wondering, what's it like for you to end a session? What's it like when we have to end? What's that like for you? So now I bring the transference into the room and I have a conversation about, I'm wondering if this is your one space of the week where you've got something to share and it's hard to end that. And now that's the end of it. And you're losing that access to me after a certain period of time. So I bring that transference in, and I partly blame myself. And I'll say, we really have to keep ourselves on time. And that's my fault. And I apologize for not keeping us on time. But I do want to let you know that at 1:45, I'm going to stop the session. It might feel abrupt. And my goal is not to make it abrupt. At 1:45, we need to start looking at our calendars to book our next session. And so I am really going to interrupt you. And so I forewarn them that I'm going to interrupt them. And then if he keeps doing it, then what I say is, Bill, the session's over. He'll keep talking. I say, Bill, the session's over. He keeps talking. Bill, I'm going to end the session now, and we'll have to book online. So now we're not going into the next 10 minutes to book online. We're not booking anymore. I'm going to let you go, and feel free to email me your availability, and we can book another appointment. And then the next time they come back, we're going to explore what was that like for you. There's a rejection in all of this. We don't want the clients to feel rejected. So that's part of what comes up. And then we have to look at our own transference around how rejected we would feel if somebody cut us off. The other thing is, if you're in session in person, make sure you have a clock that's directly facing the client and one that's directly facing you. Not that will help, Bill. At times, he may just run over the conversation around this. But definitely keep trying. And if you've been trying and the person keeps doing it, we just stop the session. So if I'm in a room one-on-one, we get up, we go to the door, and we open the door and we say, Bill, our session's over. This is really important. Let's put this on the agenda for next week. And then we leave. If you're in Zoom session, we say, Brenda, I'm going to have to shut the Zoom down now. I'm going to have to shut the video platform now. I really wish you a really good week. Let's rebook online. Or I get pushing, say, we only have about 1 minute now to make our next appointment. Are we going to have the same day and same time next week? So you do have to be a little bit like a train, running them over a little bit in a gentle way. I think from a therapeutic relationship, the gain we get from being consistent with folks. And the other thing is, people's nervous systems don't need more than 50 minutes to be upregulated. And so if they keep going and going and going and going, I think we really have to keep a close eye on clients' nervous system as they're telling these stories the second half of our session. What is going on, and interrupting earlier to check on them. And so you do an interrupting to check on them and say, Brenda, I want to check in on your nervous system, because what sounds like talking about mom is really touched a nerve today, which is very understandable. But I want to check in. How are you doing with just telling me this story here? Do you need to take a break? Do you need to take a breath? And they're not aware that their nervous system is out of control. So it's a moment for them to actually learn about their nervous system too. But I love the idea of letting clients know as soon as they start into a new story too. We can say we've got about 15 minutes left or 10 minutes left if they're going into this new story. We've all been there. We've all done that. The other thing I wanted to say, clients don't need to know you don't have a client afterwards. Doesn't matter what they may think, that you don't have a client at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. They don't know you booked somebody in. They don't need to know your schedule, first of all. But I would say, Brenda, I really would love to chat more about this. I think this is really important. I do have to run to another client. Sometimes that can be taken as a bigger rejection, though, than just ending the session on time. By interrupting, saying, this is really important. I want to get you regulated. I want to get you grounded. Now, that is really the way I want to go. But if somebody keeps going and going and going, and you're interrupting saying we have to end, Bill, this is really important, but I have to end. And then they keep going. Bill, this is really, I get this, Bill. Then we might have to make up our story and say, Bill, I have another client. I'm really sorry, but I do have to run. So my first choice is not to say I have another client, but if somebody keeps going and going and you keep trying to interrupt politely, you might have to go with that one, which can affect the transference because they forget that you've got other clients for the whole 50 minutes. You're the mom giving them all the attention for 50 minutes, and now you've mentioned their little brother's booked at 7 o'clock. But in any event, worst case scenario, pull the I have another client even when you don't. Be gentle on yourselves around this.